Hello to all my fellow classmates in my BC 5701 online chaplaincy orientation. My name is Nicholas, and so today I'm going to be sharing with you the ministry field that I chose for the area of chaplaincy, and also just talking about the intricacies of what goes on within this particular field of chaplaincy. So before I start, I just want to give a little bit of background of myself. So currently, as of now, I'm volunteering at Houston Methodist in a medical center as a lay minister for the volunteer program in chaplaincy. And so it's a program that starts in March. So so far, I've been through two training sessions, and so I have three. There's a total of five training sessions altogether, and so each training session is to prepare you to understand how to minister in a unique setting in a hospital setting as a chaplain. That there will also be a staff chaplain alongside with you who would guide you and lead you as you go to different areas, units within the hospital with the chaplain. So that's currently what I'm doing as of right now. And so right now I'm going through these training sessions where they just talk about the logistics and the culture of the hospital setting and the work that I would be doing as a lay minister. And then after the training, then the actual volunteer experiences will take place. So I'm very excited about this new journey that the Lord has um, placed within um, my life as of now, and so I'm just excited to get ready. And so, the context. What is the context and the scope of healthcare chaplaincy? So, healthcare chaplaincy in general, chaplains in this area usually um, work in a hospital setting, or they work in mental health facilities, or nursing homes, hospices, children's hospitals. But the nature of healthcare chaplaincy is to provide spiritual care and ministering to the least of these. And so, um, you're as a healthcare chaplain, it's a unique setting because you're being present in the moment with other patients who are in a state of helplessness, and at the role of a healthcare chaplain is to step in and to be present with the patient in their trauma, in their the trauma that they're experiencing. And so um, just to be a present, also as well as just providing comfort as well for the patient, as well as you're ministering and serving to their needs. And so that's generally the kind of the scope and the context of healthcare chaplaincy. And so, as a volunteer now, as a lay minister, I've been um, there's a lot of roles that the healthcare chaplain does in that setting. First and foremost, they conduct chapel services, and so the a staff chaplain will come in and they'll conduct um, a chapel service for the patients to watch. That's broadcasted live, and so to receive that spiritual nourishment, that encouragement that they need from the chaplain, that will be provided for them as well. And also, the chaplain would also offer prayer. Will offer prayer before the patient will go into their procedure, whether that be in whether that be in those who are going into surgery, or also those in palliative care and other units within the hospital. And so it's the role of the chaplain to be just to step in and be that presence, and also just to pray over the patient as well as they need it. Um, I believe another range of service for the chaplain is also um, they are also there to really build relationships with the patients as well, so that patient will have that level of trust with the chaplain. And so, as the chaplain is building a relationship with the patients, there's that confidence, there's that trust that is built within that relationship. And so, I think interpersonal relationships is also one of the main elements of service that the healthcare chaplain provides. And so, yeah, that's just a little bit of the context, the scope of healthcare chaplaincy. And so, what are the skills and the education and the training experience that healthcare chaplains undergo? And so, usually, the educational requirements for chaplains who are going into the healthcare field or who desire to go into the healthcare field is that they have to receive a bachelor's degree from an accredited Christian university. And so, as for myself, I received my bachelor's degree from HBU, Houston Baptist University. And so, they will have to receive a bachelor's from an accredited Christian university, and as well as a full seminary education at accredited theological institution. And so, whether that be in Master's of Divinity or a theological related degree, and so, so it's the basic educational requirements is a master's and a theological related degree in seminary, and also along with a bachelor's in from an accredited Christian university. And so, also one of the requirements for to be a healthcare chaplain too, healthcare chaplain as well, is that you have to be actively serving in your local church setting. And so that's a requirement for anyone. For if anyone desires to be a board certified chaplains, that they have to be actively serving their local church, and they have to be in good standing with their local church as well. And so, as for me, I'm currently serving in my local church, Faithful Worshipers of God, as a deacon in training. And so, as of right now, I'm in good standing with my local church. And so, that's generally um, also the ecclesiastical um, backing that you have to have if you want to be a certified chaplain. And so, the other certifications that you have to have is that you um, also you have to, which leads to the CPE, which is the Clinical Pastoral Education Program. And so basically, this CPE program is it's not limited to a healthcare chaplaincy, but it includes healthcare chaplaincy and other various fields of chaplaincy like military chaplaincy, sports chaplaincy, corporate chaplaincy, prison chaplaincy, government chaplaincy, and etc. And so during this program, you would receive firsthand experience by receiving your clinical units in a setting. And so generally, to be a board certified chaplain in a healthcare setting, you have to have at least four, if not five, CPE units. So each CPE unit is a total of 300 to 400 units, 400 out, 300 and 400 hours. And so, in order to be board certified as a healthcare chaplain, you have to have at minimum 2,000 hours, which is equivalent to five CPE units. And so, that's the basic um, CPE unit requirement that you'll receive during the clinical pastoral education program that's provided for the internship. And so during the CPE program, you will have a mentor or a chaplain, seasoned chaplain, who will be alongside with you as well, and they will um, guide you and lead you during this process as you um, begin to undergo and to start intensive work as a chaplain in terms of conducting assessments, being able to have on visits with patients, and being able to record your visit, record the interaction that you have with the patient. You know, the minute details that the patient has given to you in terms of their history, their background, their relationship that you built with them as well. And so that's also one of the um, skills that you'll learn as a chaplain. But most importantly, empathic listening is also one of the skills that you'll definitely learn as a chaplain, as you're there really, as you're being present with the patient. You're being an empathic listener by taking notice of everything that they say and everything that they do, so that you'll be able to truly be present with them in that moment. And so that's one of the skills that you'll learn as well, as being an empathic listener. And so the length of service that is usually um, that you have to receive to be a board certified chaplain is that you have to have at least 4 to 5 years of ministry experience as well, from the research that I've done, and also with the two chaplains that I've met for the field interviews. They've spoke at length about having um, extensive ministry experience as well. And so one of both of my chaplains are both of the chaplains who I've met are both ordained chaplains, both ordained ministers in setting in their local churches as well. And so they serve in major roles within their local church in leadership positions. And so that's also the standing that you have to have. And so you also have to have backing from an ecclesial body as well. And then once a letter is sent to you, then the board, the BCCI, the Board Certification of Chaplaincy, will be able to conduct a meeting. And so through this meeting process, they'll determine whether you have met the qualifications of being a board certified chaplain. And so that's basically the general education, skills, training, experience, length of service that you have to have in order to be considered to be a healthcare chaplain. And so the organizations and the associations that are usually um, that promote this kind of chaplaincy, there are many to be there are many of them, but most importantly would be the ACPE, which is the Association of Spiritual Care and a class of clinical pastoral education. And so that's where you, it's a website that provides um, that support, that is in support of healthcare chaplaincy, but also it comes through hospitals, seminaries, um, um, other types of organizations as well. And so, and that's where you would find the information about the clinical pastoral education internship that you will be applying to as well. And that's the main, that's usually the main association or organization that you will understand more, that you'll understand about healthcare chaplaincy in general. And that's the organization that usually supports that kind of ministry. And so how does the work of a chaplain in this type of setting differ from a congregational based setting of ministry? And so being a healthcare chaplain in a hospital setting is quite different, because you're ministering in a secular environment, but also there's that kind of challenge because you're ministering in a secular environment and also in a pluralistic setting as well. But in terms of contrast that against a congregational based setting where you minister and serve through your with your gifts and skills to the body of Christ. So, but even though it is challenging to, there comes a challenge of ministering in a pluralistic setting, but also the healthcare chaplain can grow and begin to adapt to that environment. And so, but there's the harvest is ripe in that area where you can build relationships with other people who are outside of the four walls of the church, and that you can have effective and meaningful ministry even during those times. And so um, there is that unique challenge that comes with it as well. Um, but we have been given this great commission to go out to make disciples of all nations. And so that and so we have to step outside of our comfort zones and be in that different environments that we're not used to. And so um, it's a unique setting, it's a unique opportunity to be a vessel of Christ's love, his hope, and his light in other people's lives who don't know him yet so that they can be drawn close to him. And so the important ministry boundaries that usually that a healthcare chaplain needs to take notice of. So, based on the interviews that I've had with two other chaplains that I've met for the field interviews, they told me about how one of the chaplains they recalled a moment where they were um, experienced a moment of burnout, and that they were saying yes to many things when it was appropriate for them to say no to a few certain things. So it's about setting that limit, knowing how far that you're able to go, and so I think which also leads to the self care practices as well. And so setting those personal ministry boundaries, knowing what you're capable of handling as well, and knowing when to give your knowing when you're about to knowing where you're about to have um, time of rest and self care as well. And so which leads to the self care practices. And so in terms of the self care practices, as a chaplain, there's something unique about the ministry of chaplaincy. Chaplaincy is a field of ministry where the chaplain fully invests and pours himself into other people emotionally, um, mentally, and spiritually. And so, but in order for that to happen, they themselves need to be poured into as well. And so, both of the chaplains, and there was another chaplain who I've met at the Memorial Hermann Hospital. They told me that self care is one of the best investments that you can give to yourself as a chaplain. So, um, typically, the self care practices range from um, growing in your personal relationship with God, meditating on the scriptures, prayer, also other self care exercises like going out and walking, exercising, being with family, spending time with quality time with family and friends as well. Those are usually the self care practices that you're supposed to have. And so, um, and one of the chaplains told me, I'll never forget it. She told me that you're not going to last or make it within this field if you're not able to fully take care of yourself. And so we're not supposed to put um, so much pressure on ourselves. We need to know when it's time for us to rest and rejuvenate and um, to be refreshed and get ready to start all over again. And so taking that quality time of self-care by pouring into yourself spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally, that will give you the ability to pour into others, fully invest yourselves into others as well. And so, and one of the first, one of the chaplains who, talked about in one of the first sessions that I attended to for my training, he said that even though the field of chaplaincy is very rewarding, he says also can be at times emotionally draining. And so that really stood out to me as well because you know he told us that usually there comes a time where the patient pours their heart out to the chaplain as they bring the chaplain in, and so you're really taking on other people's burdens, other people's troubles, other people's um, dilemmas as well. And so you're carrying that all in as a chaplain as well. So we all have to be aware of that. And those who are considering this ministry also have to be aware of that as well. And so what are some of the potential legal or moral issues regarding chaplaincy, and so healthcare chaplaincy. So um, I kind of alluded to this earlier when I talked about the pluralistic setting that the chaplain is placed in a hospital setting, and so um, as a healthcare chaplain, there is no proselytizing or which simply means to forcibly impose our beliefs on the patient in whom we come in contact with. And so um, we are to offer prayer, we are to offer spiritual support and care to them, but there is no proselytizing involved. And so that is also one of the moral and legal issues as well. And so just being a presence with them, but saying, just really like for example, if a chaplain is able to finish their visit with a patient and they said they would tell them, have a blessed day, that's usually a safe thing to say, and that's not really considered proselytizing as well. But I think those who are considering that type of ministry, um, they have to be aware of that potential issue, or moral issue as well. And so the fact that there's no proselytizing um, or anything of that nature, and um, also the chaplain will not be able to um, go against their personal convictions, and so as well, and so as they minister to usually the chaplain will minister to other patients within their faith tradition, but sometimes that may not be the case, based on what I'm learning throughout my training experience as a lay minister for the program. And so you also have that to consider as well. And so even though the chaplain is placed into an environment where they show deep respect and care and dignity to all patients, regardless of faith background, tradition, or walk of life, but they are still able to maintain their own convictions and staying true to their own core convictions as well. And so, but specifically, I remember I spoke with a chaplain. She told me about an experience that she had where she was with a family, and um, the patient was near at the end of her life, because the chaplain, she works in a palliative care unit of Houston Methodist Hospital, and she told me that the family had seen um, how their loved one was coming to. It looked like their life was coming to what was ending, and so um, they decided to pull the plug on them. And so she told me that that was an unethical decision, because the patient that was in violation of the patient's rights, and so it wasn't up to the family members to make that kind of decision as well. So that was a kind of sobering example of some of the potential moral and ethical issues that a healthcare chaplain experiences as well. And so I really took notice of that. So the current trends or the potential challenges that the healthcare chaplain will face in the future is being able to adapt to um, the patients in whom you're interacting with. And so what I mean by that is that um, as a chaplain, we don't know um, whom we're going to minister to, in terms of what what kind of headspace that they're in, and um, what kind of dilemma that they're facing in that moment. And so we have to be aware of that. We have to be aware of that as well. And so I just want to recount a few stories that was shared with me through the interviews. That one of the chaplains, he told me that he Um, he's a staff chaplain. He's been Houston Methodist for about 15 years now. He told me about experience where he was with a young woman, and um, she she was having a hard time to forgive her mother, and the chaplain had prayed with her, they prayed with her about the of what she was experiencing, and he told me that after he prayed with her, she was deeply touched by that, and she was able to reconcile with her mother, and so that was really a unique experience for her, because he was able to really adapt in that situation as well. And so I think that's the unique challenges, and also kind of what we need to think about in terms of the future that goes ahead for healthcare chaplaincy as well. And so that's the kind of experience that um, that you may have, or that I may have as someone who's entering into healthcare chaplaincy as well. And so um, another one is I think one of the current trends is that we may be placed in a situation where there's someone of a completely different faith tradition, or who has no affiliation with any type of faith tradition or religious backgrounds, etc. And so being able to um, be present with them, and um, also finding ways to build relationships with them as well, by serving the other needs that they have, and offering prayer to them, if they're open, and um, if they're open and wanting to receive prayer. But if they're not willing to receive any of it, we don't force ourselves upon them. So when they welcome us in, you know, when they welcome us into their environment, we're able to step in. But when we're not welcomed in, then we don't have that space to enter and be present with them. And so, as a chaplain, we enter, especially in the healthcare chaplaincy um, setting, we step into the space of others. We step into their pain. We step into their dilemma, and be a a mediator of reconciliation, of healing for them as well, and letting Christ, through the power of the Holy Spirit, to move through us as we serve and minister to those patients as well. And so I think those are kind of the unique trends that, and the challenges that a chaplain in the future may face, or chaplains face in general, that they have to consider. And so, but I think a book recommendation that I want to make, in terms of understanding the needs of um, of those who you're ministering to, would be um, Assessing Spiritual Needs, as a guide to caregivers. And so this was the book that I chose for of my choosing of suggested readings. And so this book is very short, but it's also comprehensive, and it gives you the full on detail about the nature of spiritual assessment, what it entails, what it requires, the type of models that you do, what you have to consider when you're doing a spiritual assessment and stuff. And also knowing that it's holistic in nature, meaning that it addresses the whole person, the physical, emotional, spiritual, psychological um, whole of a person. And so, again, Assessing Spiritual Needs. This was a very helpful book for me, even though it was comprehensive and very um, methodical in its approach. But this was a very helpful book for me in terms of understanding the nature of spiritual assessment, and how to go about um, and what to look for when you're interacting with your patients in a hospital setting. But yeah, so that's a little bit. That's the general information about healthcare chaplaincy. And so I'm excited to be on this journey of being a lay minister and in the healthcare setting. And I'm, for those who are interested or those who are looking into step into the field of healthcare chaplaincy. Um, um, we're in for a very rewarding experience, and this is an opportunity for us to minister to the least of these, minister um, to the hurting, and ministering to the broken, and to be that presence that the patient needs. And so um, this is a great opportunity for others to see Christ in us, to be a vessel of his love, his light, and his hope. And that's just my prayer, is that, that as we go about our, ministries, that um, we serve one another, we serve others with the spirit of excellence, with care, with compassion, and with integrity as well. And so that's just general information about um, healthcare chaplaincy, the field that I'm stepping into as well. And so I'm excited to learn about um, the other ministry fields that people are stepping into as well. And so I'm excited about this journey. I'm excited to watch all the other videos in terms of the Lord's leading to the my fellow classmates in terms of their leading of ministry and chaplaincy as well. And so I just want to thank all of you for watching this video, and God bless you all, and may the Lord richly bless your ministry, and may his grace and his peace be upon you. God bless you.